Hey, and welcome to the Perdie channel. I am your host, Matthew Perdie, and I am here with Linnae Nickels. How's it going?
Going good, Matt. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks for making the time. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I've been pretty busy with several projects and work and fighting communists. In and
Same
out.
old, same old.
Yeah, you know how it goes. It's just fighting communists in and outside the church these days.
Yeah.
So, but we're here because I wanted to talk to you about you jumping into the sisterhood in the future and what that entails and what got you interested in all that stuff. So, yeah, let's start by just, why don't we just start with how you became Catholic?
Okay. Well, my parents are actually first generation Catholics. We're not like the only Catholics in my extended family. There's one aunt who's also Catholic, but she's not practicing anymore. So we're the only practicing Catholics in my family.
Got it.
I think my parents' journey to Catholicism started sometime around the mid 80s. Like after they got married, they were both raised faithful, strong, evangelical, and Southern Baptist. So my dad was Southern Baptist, and my mom was evangelical. And her faith like took off when she went to the Naval Academy. Because there's the, I can't remember the name. It's a group of Christian officers at the Naval Academy, and it still exists. So she didn't go to church a lot when she was growing up, but once she got to the academy, her faith was able to take off with this Christian group of officers, and my dad was part of it too. So they met at the academy, got married, and my mom's always been like a really deep thinker, probably where I get some of my deep thinking too.
Yeah.
So she was always kind of like looking for truth. And she started seeing the flaws in Protestantism. And there was a friend that invited them to go with them to church, to Mass, after they had gotten married. And I think it was after my first two older siblings were born. I can't remember the exact years, but it was sometime around that time. And so they were going to Mass with them, and it's like it clicked for my parents. So they started looking into it and studying, and my family became Catholic in May of 2000.
Wow, okay.
So after my first three older siblings were born, and before I existed. So
Right. Wow, that's fascinating. So, you know your parents' story pretty well. On that note, I'm kind of curious as to what about the Mass clicked for your parents when they were checking it out.
So my mom always says that if they had gone to the Novus Ordo Mass first, they would never have become Catholic, because it's too close to Protestantism. And
Yeah, like what's the difference?
yeah.
Why bother, right?
So the friend was actually a traditional Catholic, and so the first Mass they went to was a traditional Mass with the Fraternity of St. Peter, and just the beauty and solemnity, it just clicked.
Yeah, that's incredible. So she basically, after going to it like a couple times, she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
start."
they dived in.
Yeah,
Probably it was probably more my mom dragging my father along, because he's not like really into deep research like she is, but he was looking for truth too, obviously, or it wouldn't have happened.
did they have to do any of the sacraments like baptism or confirmation, or did they already do those?
Confirmation, yes. Baptism, no, because they were both baptized in evangelicalism and Southern Baptist.
So they actually got a or at least a proper enough, proper enough baptism.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So then they had confirmation and First Communion.
Amazing. And talk about your older siblings. I guess some of them were existent when your parents were making this conversion. where did they fall in how they were influenced by your parents switching to the traditional Catholic Church?
They were young enough that it wasn't a huge like difficulty for them to switch their thinking. So my oldest sister was around 8, and then the middle sister she was like 6, and then my older brother was about 3.
Now, are they all Catholic?
Yep. So they were all baptized, confirmed. My 2 older sisters are still practicing the faith. My brother has sadly fallen away. He's having some struggles along the lines of the whole LGBTQ type way of thinking, but obviously we're all still praying for him, and he does still have a really, really great attachment to Our Lady. So I think that's helped keeping him from going too far off the deep end.
Sure.
And of course there's the assurance that those who like love Our Lady, she will pull them back to her and to her son eventually.
Yeah, definitely don't underestimate Our Lady, right?
Yeah.
But it's really interesting. So now, coming back to it, what was the church or churches that your mother was introduced to? Was it the SSPX, or was it like another traditional Latin mass? Or?
It was the Fraternity of St. Peter.
Ah, okay, got it.
So at that time, it was before the excommunication was lifted, and the area we were living at that time, there weren't any society chapels around in that area. So the only traditional group was the fraternity. And the institute wasn't around there either, because they're only recently like getting into the United States.
Makes sense. So now we move to you, and growing up, certainly you're raised in the traditional Catholic faith.
Yes.
And what was your thoughts growing up as a traditional Catholic? Was there ever a desire or a tendency to want to rebel against the Catholic faith or your parents' teachings?
No. I mean, it just always kind of like made sense. I mean, obviously they're like the normal childhood rebellions. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. But as far as like rebelling against the faith or like my parents' wishes in the faith, none of that. I mean, because I was a cradle Catholic.
Yeah.
So they had been Catholic for 3 years before me. And then my little brother was born 2 years later. So me and my little brother were both cradle Catholics, and rebellion against the church was never really a thought. It was just what we did. It made sense.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised by how many Catholics I come across that didn't really enter that rebellious phase. Because I definitely, I think I probably would have. Now, I'm not going to get too far into my story, but I was agnostic, then became Christian, and then Catholic only a few years ago. But yeah, it's kind of mixed, right? It's really interesting to hear people's stories, and often when they come back to the faith, they come back with like an ironclad, sort of attitude. But so how did you go from just being a normal layman traditional Catholic to wanting to join the sisterhood?
That's kind of a hard question to answer. Just because of the way I grew up, and like my parents, and like the search for truth that brought them to not only the Catholic faith but the traditional Catholic faith, that spirit of like seeking the deepest truth possible kind of filtered down to me. So I've always been really into research and just reading a lot. Higher level books than you would think normal for a kid of my age. So I didn't grow up reading like kids books because they were kind of boring to me. I mostly entertained myself growing up by reading through our entire set of encyclopedias.
What?
Yeah, I read through the entire set of encyclopedias when I was like 8 or 9.
That's ridiculous.
Just for fun.
Who does that?
No one.
I want to say what is wrong with you, but I don't want to discourage such a cool thing. That's interesting.
Yeah, so that's the level of books I was reading when I was not reading like kids' fairy tales.
What about
basically.
like TV or video games and that stuff? You weren't into
No.
any of that online
No,
stuff?
my parents weren't really into video games or that kind of thing, so we didn't really watch TV growing up. We read, played board games, built things with Legos, like that kind of thing, or played outside for hours in the woods because we grew up in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, so it's like
Right.
the perfect place. It's like the idyllic childhood place to grow up.
Yeah, you
So,
get a little isolated, but
yeah, you've got the woods, and you've got the birds and the deer and the bears,
yep.
and you've got creeks and you've got ponds, and it's just like it was a really good place to grow up because you had a lot of freedom, but it was also like secure enough that you could have that freedom.
Yeah.
And playing outside for 3 hours every day, you're going to have a longer attention span, so you're going to want to do things that feed your mind as opposed to sitting in front of the TV for a couple hours. You're going to want to read through the set of encyclopedias. Now, granted, I was actually the only one of my siblings who did that, but we were all like into deeper things than was normal for kids our age, just because my parents' influence. I think a lot of that was, again, like their search for like the truth and like knowing reality.
So it sounds like it's not just genetic, with sort of passing on that sort of personality trait. It sounds like you actually watched your parents pontificating and deep diving into things
Yes.
a lot. How did you witness your parents deep diving?
It was mostly my mother, because obviously my father was at work all day, but I remember lots of times like playing in the living room with my little brother and hearing her talking to my 3 older siblings. There's a 9-year gap between me and my older brother, so I would be like 6 and my little brother would be 4, and then there's that 9-year gap. So I would hear her in the kitchen talking to them about some deep topic, politics or the faith or whatever, world events, and I'd be just playing and I'd be listening with one ear to what she was talking about, thinking, oh wow, that's really interesting, let me continue building these Legos.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a culture of like really deep thinking and trying to like understand reality. Like,
See, that's fascinating real quick, because I think a lot of people in their later single digit years, early teens are, particularly when I was younger, they didn't care about that most of the time at all. We were like, we thought politics and world and faith, all those things, a lot of us thought that stuff was boring. So why do you think that you were so fascinated by your mother's deep dives and deep discussions about politics, the world, faith, things like that?
I would say some of it's personality. I've really really curious, like wanting to know things.
Yeah.
I may have been like, the typical thing is like young kids, they ask why all
Yeah.
the time. But I think I probably asked why more than most kids my age did.
Just spamming the Y button.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was about like deeper things. And I'm also it's just like personality. I'm an introvert. I'm a really quiet introvert. And I just like to think about things because it keeps you from having to talk to people. So
I can relate to that. Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is personality, and it's just I've just always been really curious about like everything, like not necessarily like specific things, but everything. So, and then my parents encouraged that, so it wasn't stifled in any way.
Yeah, that's incredible. Especially when it happens naturally like that.
Yeah.
You can just all they have to do is go, okay, let's water this plant a little bit,
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about telling us your history of where you went from being like a layman, churchgoer, Catholic, to deep diving into the sisterhood. Certainly your thought provocation, it seems like, had an effect on you discerning that for yourself, because I'd imagine you're able to see the forest through the trees a little bit in terms of purpose and whatnot, right?
Yeah. So we mostly went to fraternity parishes when I was growing up, but we did go to some Novus Ordo just because of like location wise. So able to see that contrast, I think, helped a lot. And my mom was always talking to us about how she was like pointing out that the Novus Ordo side of the church is much weaker than the traditional side. So I've always naturally known that the Novus Ordo is like, yeah, you go to mass there, but it's there's no substance. It's a shell.
Wow, you actually grew up understanding the effects of Vatican II.
Yes, and I give all the credit to God, obviously, and to my mom because she's like really into research. So she was able to impart all of this to us kids in a way that each of us could understand according to our age level, but also in a way that we would want to explore it more for ourselves too. So we would see the difference, and then as I got older and I was able to like analyze things for myself more, I started seeing the differences better. So I think it all like really came to a head right around, no, I was going to say right around COVID, but it was before that.
Okay.
So probably maybe around 2016.
All right.
Yeah, so 2016 was also the year Trump was elected.
Yeah.
So there was a monumental shift in like world society at that time.
Right.
I think there was probably also like a shift in church society at that time. I can't like put my finger on it, but I just kind of think there was something shifted
After Trump was elected.
Yes.
That's fascinating. What did you notice? I know you're having trouble putting your finger on it, but what things did you notice that felt different?
Vitriol. So people became a lot meaner, like in news stories, just like in the political world after he was elected. And for whatever reason that is, I don't know. I don't actually care. That's just what happened.
Right.
So the debate process leading up to the election, it was
brutal, man.
You remember it better than I do.
I remember, yeah.
But we watched those debates. Those were brutal. And contrasted to the debates when Obama was running, those were tame. So
yeah, those are milquetoast.
Something shifted, and I don't know quite what it is. Unless it's like, because that term of his, that was like shining a light on a lot of the darkness in the country. Some of that has shifted in this term, but that was like turning the lights on.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people were just startled and just angry that they were being shown for what they are.
Right.
And so they just lashed out.
And so you're saying that you saw that lashing out, even the reverberations of that lashing out in the church culture to some extent.
Yeah, so I've observed in real life, and also given the fact that I read a ton, like throughout history, when something shifts in the world, it's because it shifted first in the church. So what happens in the church dictates what happens in the world, and kind of vice versa, but it's usually the church that like initiates it. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm not too clear on the church in that time because I was a kid.
Sure.
But that was 2016, so that was 3 years after Pope Francis
right.
was elected. That was 3 years after Pope Benedict resigned. So when he resigned, I think probably something really shifted because that doesn't happen
Or is
often.
perhaps the beginning of a global shift
Yes.
in I'd say anti-establishment, right? Because that's kind of what Trump was a manifestation of.
Yes.
Right. But so you notice this sort of vitriol and this sort of you turn the light on, is what you're saying, and you notice all these really bad people are showing their colors, because I think what you saw at that time were these people were forced to show their true colors, right? Like you'd say, like establishment Republicans and Democrats showed like how ferocious they can really be, I saw my first glance of that during the Tea Party era, in like 2009, 2010, and they were so determined to label Tea Party conservatives as racist, even though it had zero to do with race even whatsoever. But it was obviously just an attempt to destroy that political movement and discredit it. But I saw glimpses of it at that time, but it was hard to imagine it would get worse. And then Trump came, and it got a lot worse. And these guys, I think, but that desperation, that the ferociousness was a sign of the desperation, a measure of the desperation of how it's sort of like evil tends, I think, to get more and more fierce before it gets stomped out completely, right? And I kind of think that's a little bit of what we were seeing at that time, and we're still seeing it in different ways, right?
Yes.
And evil is escalating its methods in certain ways, for sure. But to get back to your path towards the sisterhood, so you noticed this shift in the vitriol and evil becoming a little bit more fierce. So how did you respond to that?
Asking why. And deep diving into books on the faith, into books on history, and just like following the pattern. I like following patterns. So I was starting to see the same patterns I had seen in a lot of my reading. And so that led me to dive into scripture, which is like the ultimate like blueprint for following patterns, because it contains all of mankind, all of society is contained in the scriptures, and you can see the pattern of the existence of mankind repeated over and over and over in the scriptures, and it's repeated throughout world history. Circumstances are different, but you can always find the principles of it back in scripture. And in a lot of that, I was guided by my mom, because growing up evangelical Protestant and like really diving into it when she was young adult, that's what they're into. They're into diving into scripture.
Yeah.
Fortunately, she was able to get out of it before it started going downhill too fast.
Sure.
Because like nowadays she says, oh, this is what it was like when I was a Protestant, and she always has to clarify. It's like, yeah, the Protestantism of the 80s was like this, because it's very different now. It's not quite the same.
There's a few more strobe lights and smoke machines nowadays, right? So.
Yeah. So watching those patterns, it was the big question, why? Obviously, the answer is evil, like original sin. But it's like, well, how? How does that show up? Why does it show up this way versus that way? And just watching those patterns and starting to see it played out, like in the differences between the two halves of the church, as I call them. There wasn't a whole lot of a like mental shift in the parish, the Novus Ordo parish that we attended at that time, but just the contrast between Novus Ordo and traditional, and also the Novus Ordo parish that we were going to, it was on the more liberal end, I'll say.
Total shocker. I mean,
yeah, really.
I mean, I guess they do range, but
They
still,
do.
I mean, when you've got something that's made to be so modernist and relativistic, it's no surprise it would be vulnerable to that. It's made to be.
Yeah, so it was going to mass, it was boring. Like, fall asleep kind of boring. And it was like sad being there, because the demographic was 50 to 70. There were some younger families, but it was mostly 50 to 70. There were no families with multiple kids. The biggest, I think, aside from us, was one of like 2 kids. So we were the largest family. We took up an entire pew at mass, and the older people in the parish were always commenting to my father, yeah, your kids are so well behaved, and you're all always dressed so nicely. And we were always kind of like, why is that something for us to be complimented on? We're at mass. It's supposed to be the sacrifice of the cross being renewed on the altar. It's supposed to be Jesus there on the altar. Why would we not be well behaved and dressed in our best? So we were always just kind of like, that's weird.
So you guys stood out in the Boomer Ordo.
We did
mass.
stand out in the Boomer Ordo, literally, because we were like the youngest family there.
But also because of how
Yes.
well behaved, which is really just being respectful and
Yeah.
normal in a mass, right?
Yes.
But I'm assuming you didn't see the same thing in the traditional mass. With
The same what?
Well, you wouldn't have situations where people are like, oh, well, your children are so well behaved in the traditional, like it was less of a contrast, I imagine, in a traditional mass.
It was, like, especially like the way we dressed was, we dressed the same way everyone else dressed at the traditional parish. As far as behavior goes, we did get a couple compliments on the way we were behaved, because I guess back when I was like around like 8, 9, 10, I think that's when like the gentle parenting trend started. So there were some families that the kids weren't well behaved. It's not as bad as it's gotten with the generation of parents in my age group, but the ones who are like 40, 45 now, they were 25
Right.
or 30 then.
Yeah, it seems like, certainly the effects of gentle parenting have, they've even, I will say that I think they've even affected the traditional mass just less than the
Yes.
Boomer Ordo mass. But yeah, so you're, well, fine, all right, cut back to me. There you go. So you're in a situation where you're seeing this massive evil coming out, and you're pontificating, and you're observing that there is a sort of pattern to evil and when it increases and whatnot. And so from that point on, what was it that you observed or decided that brought you to the priest? Excuse me, can't be a priest.
Let's not go there, Matt.
to becoming a yeah, we're not going trans here. No, to becoming a nun. Like, how did that come about?
I mean, obviously growing up in a traditional Catholic family, there's at least some talk of the priesthood or the religious life. It's just always like there as an option in addition to marriage, obviously. So I always knew it was an option. As far as like actually following that path, I would say just like seeing the problems and the patterns. It was the desire to do something about it. I don't know who it was that said all it takes for society to crash is for good men to do nothing.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I don't remember who said that. Someone back in the 1800s, I think, or the 1900s, whenever. And that's the pattern I saw through history. Good people, like people who really want the best for everybody else, doing nothing about the problem. And obviously, if you get married and you have kids, you can raise them to be good, faithful Catholics who are basically real people and not like fake. But that's just one small community, just your little family. That's really all the influence you have. Now, of course, you can be an example of other families, but you have a larger impact. You can do more if you're not tied down by your family, especially if you're a woman. Because if you have a family, your vocation is to raise those kids.
Right.
Not raise anybody else's kids, to raise those kids, because that's your sphere of influence. If you're single, or if you're a priest, or if you're a sister, you have access to a larger sphere of influence.
It's almost like you have more freedom in a way.
It's like you have more freedom to reach more people without being tied down by the demands of family. Because if your kid's sick, but you were also planning to go help out at your parish with some youth group event, you're going to need to stay home and take care of your sick child.
That's right.
Versus going and teaching the kids at the parish, because that's your job. Someone else can take your place teaching the children at the parish. But if you don't have that tether of family, you can go and teach those kids. You can go and do podcasts. You can, if you're a priest, you can go and give catechism lessons or conferences. You're not tied down. I mean, obviously there's still the tether of like the obedience and the vows and everything, but in a way you have more freedom to reach more people. They also listen to you more.
Yeah, it seems like a different focus too, right?
Yes.
Because obviously we need, super obvious to say, but you need both. You need, and we need more of it, really. We need more of both, to be quite honest. More women that are making babies and starting families with men, and we also need more nuns, right? We need more people with that sort of mission-oriented attitude, which is, I love what I'm hearing from you, sort of looking at the world and how ferocious and nasty and evil a lot of it's become or showing itself to be. And your reaction is, okay, I'm going to become mission-oriented, and becoming a nun is a great means for me to do that. And so what made you feel like this was a good fit for you specifically, that this was a good means for you to combat or do something about this ferocious evil that was showing itself?
I would say just like the concept of mission, like you said. So I'm from a military family. Both my parents went to the Naval Academy. My dad became a Marine Corps pilot. So we always had like a mission orientation in our family, just because, I mean, that happens in a military family.
Yeah.
And I also read a ton of books on the military, different branches of the military, different wars, like lots of like mission oriented books. And those are obviously books about people doing something about a problem, whether or not it's the right way at that time to fix that problem, because obviously war is evil and some wars are unjust, but still they see a problem, whether it's a problem that they should be fixing that way or not, and they do something about it. I'm not like a lazy person. I think society today has just gotten really lazy, really mediocre.
Yeah.
And some of that is probably like a product of Vatican II and the changes in Catholicism. Because, like I said earlier, what happens in the church is reflected in the world.
The world is downstream from the church, right?
Exactly. So when the changes happened, it left a shell. There was no mission. The church, the Novus Ordo Church, has no mission. If you go to your average good Novus Ordo Catholic and ask, hey, what's the mission of the church? They're probably going to say, to get us to heaven. Now that is true, but the mission of the church is to save souls and bring the kingship of Christ upon the earth. Not just to get us to heaven.
Right.
That's part of it. But it's to bring Christ's kingdom to reign in hearts and souls and in society. That was done away with in the council. So that shift from, oh, just get to heaven, it makes people get lazy. Because it's like, oh, I just have to go to mass, do my thing, and I'll be fine. I'm doing my job. Never mind the fact that they're not actually doing their job. The culpability, of course, isn't always on them, because a lot of these good Catholics, they're just raised in that faith. Right. I mean, it sounds funny to say that faith as if it's a different one, but it kind of is.
Well, yeah, it's like a checkbox Catholicism, right?
Yeah, and there's no mission. Mankind needs a mission.
Yep.
And when you take that mission away, he becomes lazy.
Yeah.
Mediocre, complacent. And so, like, me seeing that pattern throughout history, and seeing people doing nothing about it, or seeing the few people who are mission oriented, like doing something, it's like, I want to be that person who does something. I don't want to be a mediocre Catholic who just goes to mass on Sundays, punches their ticket, clocks out, goes home. I want to do something. with my life, something valuable, something real. And having a family, of course, is its own mission, but like again, it's like it's also a tether.
Right.
And I've always wanted to be like a missionary. I read lots of stories about the missionaries in the church. And I was like, wow, that'd be cool to do. I can't be a priest. Hey, I can be a sister.
Yeah.
And so that kind of helped me tend towards that. Yeah.
That's incredible. I think it's so cool. I mean, I feel like in a weird way I can relate to your thought process because I think God gave me a very natural, mission-oriented personality and attitude. Even before I was faithful, I always felt a need to be productive and work on something. I had a natural desire to help people in the world. Thanks be to God for that. But hearing this, it's like, wow, it just reminds me a lot of like kind of my own happiness being satiated, right?
Yeah.
Just by working on projects,
Yeah.
where doing something that even just entertains people feels,
Yeah.
Productive and satisfying to the soul, I guess, in a way,
Yeah.
right? So that's really cool. Now, so when was it that you officially made the decision and tell us about the process of becoming a nun? Because right now you're about what, just a year or two into this, or just I'm very by the way, guys, I'm a very new Catholic and I'm a new traditional Catholic, so a lot of the stuff I'm asking because I don't know it. So yeah, why don't you tell us about how you got started?
I'd say crisis point was probably COVID. So, everything shut down. My father was working in DC at that time, so he was often stuck in DC for a couple weeks at a time. So, not much opportunity to go to the fraternity parish that we often went to. So it was usually the Novus Ordo. When we could make it to Mass, it was usually the Novus Ordo, just
Right.
because we had things we needed to do to manage the house. Because obviously, my dad being gone, and also my mom had some health struggles. So us kids, we couldn't always be off an hour away, be gone most of the day because we had responsibilities at home that we had to attend to. So it was often the Novus Ordo parish, which was like 10 minutes from the house, and it was Novus Ordo. So the whole social distancing and masks and just the whole stupidity of COVID, which, by the way, guys, was a fake. It was real, but it was a psyop.
It was a total clown show. Yeah.
That's for a different podcast.
Well, no, and I think it's okay to call it a psyop because what happened when suddenly George Floyd madness happened, right? Suddenly COVID was over for about 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, it was totally fascinating.
Yeah. And I almost got killed by a bunch of them. So that was, I was covering a protest, like live streaming it from my phone for Breitbart. And I guess some Antifa caught wind that Breitbart was live and they tracked the camera to my location.
Oh, dear.
And as I was trying to de-escalate and kind of move away, suddenly they yelled, "Kill him!" And I'm like, well, shit, I gotta get out of here. So, but it's, it was a little crazy, but it was very rough, man. A lot of emotions around that time. But if you look at the separation between people, suddenly it was like, oh, well, let's just put this like sickness thing on the side for a second. Let's just pretend like it didn't happen, and and bring attention to this extreme leftist thing that we want to like try to move the Overton window on a little bit, and then move back, and then we can go back to being scared again. So in that sense, most definitely. But so continue on explaining what brought you over during this insane COVID. Was it? What did I once call it? The pandemic apocalypse, right? So go on explaining how you got to pursuing the nunhood amidst the pandemic apocalypse.
a vocation to the religious life.
Yeah, I have to learn all the terminology, and I'm still working on it.
Nunhood works as a simplistic term. Anyway,
I like it.
it's cute.
Yeah. It's less syllables, so I like it.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So just a bit more background. As I said before, the Noah Soto parish, it was kind of liberal. There was no substance in the sermons.
Shallow,
just empty. And I think all of us felt it, like all us kids. We were like, why? And sometimes it was just like, oh, we have to go to this church again. Can't we just go to the other one? Because it was boring. It was empty. And obviously, growing up in the traditional Catholic world, we knew there's supposed to be substance there. You're supposed to go there to be fed, and to be fed a hearty meal, not potato chips or popcorn or cereal or something substantial, and it wasn't there. The pastor there, often he would end mass by saying, now we can go watch football.
Oh my gosh.
So after the final blessing, he'd be like, say, peace be with you. Oh, wait, no, not peace be with you. The Lord be with you. Go in peace. Now we can go watch the football games. And everybody would burst out laughing. All the boomers would burst out laughing.
It truly is the boomer order.
Yeah, so
right?
when we always kind of like, that is a horrible way to end mass. So, he was the pastor, and a parish takes on the attitude of the pastor. Given the fact that he had such a flippant attitude and like a careless attitude towards the mass, towards the liturgy, that filtered down into the parish life. It was just a very, very boring parish. A lot of the strictly Noah Soto parishes are boring. The ones that have both, there tends to be a bit more life, and it comes from the traditional side of the parish, interestingly enough. But so in COVID, everything shut down. My crisis point was it was a Saturday during Lent, close to Easter. I think it was Passion Week. Like Saturday of Passion Week. I think it was Saturday of Passion Week. I don't remember, but it was like towards Holy Week. And we had gone to the church for some reason. Oh wait, no, it was Sunday. So it must have been like Passion Sunday. And it was before Mass. Normally, like before the whole COVID thing happened, there was maybe confession before Mass for 15 minutes. And it was usually literally just my family that went to confession. I'm not kidding.
You're not kidding.
I am not kidding. I'm actually dead serious. It was usually our family. So, like, 3, 4, 5 of us in line. And it was usually my family. There might be one other person occasionally, but it was usually just my family who went to confession. Sometimes it was like it would slightly increase during Lent. Some Lents. Other Lents, it was just, the same. So, we were really the only ones who went to confession. So, this particular Sunday, I was expecting there was going to be confession, because this was Easter. So, it was March. And everything had, just been shut down. Naive me, I didn't know that also meant that basically the sacraments were shut down. It was like the same week everything was shut down. I didn't know that the sacraments were going to be shut down. So I was like, there's no one in the confessional. So I went to the sacristy, stuck my head, and I was like, hey Father, are you doing confession today? And he said no.
He just said no. He didn't give you any explanation?
He said no. And I was like, why not? And I was like 15 or 16. I was 16. And I was also angry that he had said no, and also hurt.
Yeah.
Because it's like your father telling you no about something good that you're asking for. I don't know, you asking your father, hey Dad, I'm really, really sad tonight. Can you give me a hug? And he says no.
Yeah, that's no, I cannot absolve you of your sins today.
So that's what it was like. So I was angry and I was hurt, and I was like, why not? And he was like, we're not allowed to. And it's like,
He actually said that. We're not allowed to.
Yes. And I didn't know what to say. Thinking back now, I would have been like, what do you mean you're not allowed to? It's in your job description.
That's the reason you exist right now.
It's the reason you are sitting or standing here before me in clericals.
Yeah.
Because they didn't wear cassocks at that parish, obviously. It's like, that is the reason you are what you are. But he said no, and he said they're not allowed to. So I turned around and slammed the sacristy door behind me and went back to my pew. That was pretty much the angriest I had ever been in my life up to that point.
Well, and you this is something that you're righteous to feel angry about, right? Because this is the one thing you need for absolution, so that if for some horrible situation or chance you ended up dying in that state, you're either going to go to hell or purgatory, potentially.
Well, yeah, and it's like, it wasn't just for me that I was angry. I mean, given the fact that it's like, seeing the larger scheme of things, I was more angry that there were going to be people who were in the state of mortal sin and needed to go to confession, and that if they couldn't have that, if they weren't allowed that, they were going to go to hell. No doubt about it. If you die in mortal sin, you go to hell.
Yeah.
So I was more angry for that situation than for myself. But yeah, I slammed the sacristy door and walked out. Walked back to my pew. Now, granted, you technically shouldn't slam the sacristy door in the priest's face. But
I don't know. Maybe that was a wake up call that he needed, though.
I hope it was a wake up call for him. But yeah, there was no confession that day, and we went about our business. We stayed for mass. We booked it out of there, and I was furious the rest of the Sunday. And that was like the critical point. Like, everything had reached critical mass, and it's like everything like went nuclear at that point. And my mind is like, I am going to do something about this.
I love it.
I don't know what, I don't know how, and I don't know when, but something is going to be done, because this is wrong. God doesn't want people denied confession and left in the state of mortal sin. He doesn't want that, and he wants us all to work for that not to happen. So that means he has something for me to do. I just need to find it, and I'm going to find it. Come hell or high water.
I love it.
If you want to use that term.
Yeah, this is like your Super Saiyan moment, right? You just snapped.
Yeah, it was such a snap.
Right.
Like, it's like personality shift level of snap.
Well, that's just it's sort of like your world. There's like a sort of paradigm shift, because that's something you've never encountered and never heard of anyone encountering before that.
Exactly. I mean, it's like you read through the history of the church, through the persecutions, where, I don't know, a community can't have a priest for a year or a couple 100 years, like in Japan. And that's circumstances. That's a nationwide or worldwide persecution where the priests literally cannot get to you, but they die trying to get to you.
Big difference.
If you think about, like, England during the 1500s, priests died so that people could have confession. And seeing that contrasted with these priests who may be good men in of themselves, but they're caught in a certain system. And
no, I don't know if I want to even call them good men. I think they're weak men, and I don't think weak men are good in my view. And maybe I'm being a little harsh, but I think that when you're setting aside people's ability to, get absolution.
Yes.
Right. When you're doing that for what, your own safety, or just to not to spread the stupid wimpy virus?
Not to spread the virus so that they don't end up getting punished and lose their pension. It's a cruel system. The Novus Ordo Church is a cruel system to be a priest. And I feel sorry, like, every time ordinations come around, because it's like always around summer, obviously. And the Novus Ordo, like, I always feel so sorry for those men, because they're being ordained into a system that is going to kill the life in their souls. It's a cruel system. But back to this event, yeah, it was like the critical moment. It was like, yep, something's going to be done about this. This is not right. This is completely evil. And that's also, like, partly when I began to realize, like, how cruel the system is to these priests. It makes them weak. They may be like if they were in the right system, these would be like good priests, but they're born into this system, they're raised in this system, they're educated in this system, they're ordained into this system, and it makes them weak.
And so is that when you decided to look into or join or begin attending the SSPX essentially?
No, that was when I was like, I'm going to do something about this, and it's going to be something where I can have the freedom to go where I need to go, not tied down. So you can say like that's when I like seriously started about the religious life. So when I was like 16. It wasn't until I was like 18 that I was like, yeah, I'm actually going to pursue this like harder. And I think a lot of people, they don't like really decide like what they're going to pursue fully until they're like 18, 19.
Yeah, I mean, if they do, I mean, there's a lot of people that haven't figured it out still around my age.
Yeah, that's
right?
that's a different story.
Yeah.
But people who want to do something with their lives, they usually figure it out right around like 18, 19. Like,
well, you know, and I'll give a little bit of charity in this regard, because I think for some people it's more obvious than others,
yes.
right? And certainly you and I are the more introverted, you know,
yeah.
trying to think about stuff a lot, like examining every angle of everything and just getting lost in thought.
And overthinking things, but...
Yeah, and then, you know, some people get caught up in other pursuits and things, and they sometimes their skill set is so multifaceted, right? And
yeah.
I'm more of like I'm definitely more of like the autist, just like I'm only good at like two things, right? So if two, maybe one, but I hope that we can get to a place where more people can figure out what they want to do sooner.
Yeah.
And I think if the church is fixed up and we get rid of all those Vatican II changes, we can maybe help to bring people to that mindset sooner.
Yeah.
In life. But yeah, go on. So you're 18, and what did you do?
That's like really when I like decided, yep, this is what I'm going to do, and I like started looking into the different orders. My research half of me came out, and that's when I started researching. I was going to say something else.
Take your time.
I was just thinking about it when you were talking about figuring things out.
Well, yeah, I'll just mention that I'll bring up some of that stuff, but I think it's hard for some people to figure out what they want to do even before they reach 18 or around the time they reach 18.
I figured out. It's skill sets.
Yeah.
So, given the fact that I'm like innately like super curious, and my mother's really into research, her common mantra when we were like in our school years was learn as much as you can about as much as you can, because she wanted us to be really well-rounded, be able to talk to all sorts of people about all sorts of different things, and also like bring them to the truth of reality.
Right.
So we all took that literally. We all my siblings, we all have like multifaceted skill sets. You could call us jacks of all trades.
See, I wish I were like people like you. I really wish I had that skill set or
Yeah, I mean, obviously some people aren't like that, but I think part of like that was just like the product of my parents' personalities.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
Them seeing that there were these problems in the world or like in the education system where people are put in a box, and they didn't want us to be in that box. So we had a lot of freedom to explore what we were actually truly interested in, and not forced to do things we were interested in.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, except for the things you need to know, like
sure.
math.
Yeah, you got to go to math. Math, yeah, certainly.
Math and reading and
yeah.
like things like that. But like also like a lot of our interests, it could be into electrical work or sewing and other crafts or art or music or whatever. We were allowed that freedom to explore. So having that background, it's allowed me to build a lot of skill sets that a lot of people my age sadly don't have. They could have it, but they don't. So I'm grateful that God allowed me to be able to build these skill sets, because I think they're going to be useful, obviously, in later life, and like especially in...
Oh no,
Sorry.
Pokey!
Oh dear.
That's all right. He's a bad guy, so you're allowed to hit Pokey.
I think that those skill sets will come in handy in the mission field, if you like.
Yeah.
So I started doing my research into different religious orders. I knew I wasn't going to go to any Novus Ordo orders because I just wasn't. We don't need to get into why I wasn't. We know why I wasn't. But I just started looking into the different ones and like contemplative, cloistered, active, teaching, semi-contemplative, like that kind of thing. And given the fact that I'm an introvert, but I also like doing things, I figured out I probably need something that's like semi-active, semi-contemplative, so I don't get burned out by being too active, but also don't get bored by being too like confined.
Yeah.
And it was like I'd say a 2-year process of going through these different orders and like looking at their charisms and different things like that, like charisms, like where they operate, whether or not they're strictly foreign order, like strictly French or Italian, or if they go all over the place, if they're missionaries, if they stayed in one location, if they're teaching order. It's like, and I like to be able to use like all the skills I have.
Yeah.
I don't want to just stick with doing one thing, like, I don't know, gardening or teaching.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I want to be able to do everything that I can do. And
Out of fear of the brain rot of just doing one thing all the time.
Yeah. Too much, like, repetition's great. It can be very comforting, but too much repetition of the same thing over and over again is maddening. So it was like there needs to be enough variety that I don't die inside, but not so much variety that I die inside from being burned out.
Yeah, I get that.
So it took a while for me to figure out, oh, there actually are orders that like have a larger realm of charisms, if you like.
Yeah.
Of a larger, well, of different things that they do. The first one was the first one that I came across that did that was the Institute Christ the King. Now, I wouldn't have been able to find that earlier because they literally like just got the sisters like up and running in, I think, 2016. So they were new. Their website probably like, I think their website had like just been finished when I came across them. So the things they do, it's a larger sphere. So they do some teaching. They're semi-contemplative, so they have those quiet periods during the day for prayer. They also do a lot of different crafts, and they're also a missionary order. So they're all over the place, and it's not like you're sent to one place and you stay there. You're likely to be moved to another place at some point. So kind of like the society priests.
Right.
So that was the first order that I found that was like that. I was like, that's interesting. I would look into them. So I was looking into them for a while. And I was like, let's see what other orders there are. And then there was a friend at my parish that we go to now. So by this time we had moved to here in Virginia.
Sure.
We moved here in late 2020. So a friend of mine went to the Benedictines in Missouri, like right around that time. And before she went, she was like, yeah, well, you can come visit me at the Benedictines. And like a year after she went, I was like, I'll take her up on her offer and like see what they're about. She's a much like quieter, more sedate personality than me, and the Benedictines are like contemplative. They don't like, go out and teach. They're contemplative, and they also like do a lot of work with vestments, like making vestments and selling them.
That's cool.
So
yeah.
That is pretty cool. I like sewing, so I was kind of like, hey, let's see what they're about. I was there for like a week, and I was like, yeah, I think they're too quiet for me.
Yeah, a little too chill.
They're a little too chill, and it's like it was a great experience. I enjoyed it, but there's also a sense of like depression there for me, because it's like, this is too calm.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a calm person.
But you've got some fire. You've got some fire.
Like, I've got some the spark there, and I was like, if I go here, I will end up being depressed. And yeah. I mean, you don't want depressed nuns.
No, but this probably would suit someone who perhaps grew up around too much tension, too much conflict with family and friends around them, and want to live a very calm life.
Maybe not. So I'm not going to get deep into it, but there's been a lot of tensions in my family. So my mom has often said that our family has been through World War II, pretty much since right around the time I was born. So I always thought it's like I've like been born into a wartime. So there's a lot of tension. I don't know if that has contributed to like me wanting to do something, because there've been a lot of times when I've not been able to do things about problems when I was a kid, and it's paralyzing when you see a problem and it's hurting the people around you, and you're like, I'm just a kid, I literally cannot do anything. I mean, and it's also personality wise. So being in a calm place like the Benedictines, I think it would be too calm. When you've lived in a war zone where you've lived on the edge of a knife since you were born, that becomes like a part of your personality. And sometimes coming into like a calm place, it's like you're always like on edge.
Yeah, I've heard,
waiting for the next thing.
I've heard it said that some people are more comfortable in hell, and it's not to be taken literally, but you know,
yeah.
but figuratively, or you know, it's. I kind of understand that, because I as well have a little bit of the personality where I constantly need to be fixing or working on something, and if I'm unable to do that, I'm like, it just drives me nuts.
Yeah, I mean, of course, obviously that can also end up being a fault, but it's also like a personality thing, and you do have to like find a vocation that will not send you into depression because of that personality trait. So my friend, she's a very calm, sweet, gentle girl who's had a very calm life. And so the Benedictines are like the perfect fit for her. She's also like a completely different personality and temperament than I am. So it works much better for her. Yeah. So I was bored there for the entire week I was there. I was bored. And it's like, I'm also like, I'm a quiet person and an introvert, but I'm also like an active person sometimes. So it's like it switches back and forth. So during the recreation periods, it was maybe like sitting around working on some little sewing project, or maybe doing some like light work in the kitchen, like, I don't know, peeling onions or something. The difference between like their work period and the recreation periods is that they were allowed to talk. So I'm not a huge talker, so being quiet wasn't a problem for me. Actually, I enjoyed it. But it was just when you're allowed to like be released from the restrictions of like the silence or whatever. I want to be able to do something like something physical. So it was something very calm, or maybe like going for a calm, gentle little walk.
Wow.
And it was like, I don't think I could do this. I would die inside. And they would be like, yeah, no, this isn't a good fit for you. And I would be like, yeah, you're right, I should have known that before I joined. So I was like,
but that's how you figure it out, right? Is you try these different things out.
Yeah. So it was more like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Let's look into the Sister Adorers, the Institute of Christ the King's sisters. So I considered going to I reached out to the Mother Superior, and she was like, oh yeah, sure, we'd be great to have you, but don't bother going to our house that's in the United States, because there's only like 4 sisters there, because they had literally like just moved to the States. And you won't really get like a good idea of the atmosphere, of the character of the order. You should come to our mother house in Italy, and you probably for like 2 weeks, just so that you have enough time to recover from the jet lag, get a good idea of the character, and then, you know, get back home. And I was like, okay, cool, that sounds fun. A flight to Italy is expensive.
Yeah, I imagine so.
And I was like, yeah, I'm not really too keen on spending $2,000 to go spend 2 weeks in a place I don't know, with people I don't know, where they speak French, which I don't know, where there are going to be people talking in French and I don't know what they're saying. I also like to know what people are saying. Yeah. And it's like, it sounds great, I would love to do this, but it's like mostly like the finances prevented me from doing that. And also the fact that obviously there was COVID and there was craziness in the world, and I was 18. And my parents were like, we really don't think it's a great idea for an 18-year-old girl to go by herself to Italy at this time in the world. And I was kind of like, yeah, you're probably right.
That takes some prudence.
It does. So it's like my mother couldn't travel with me because she has some health issues. My dad was working a lot at that time, so he couldn't leave his job. My older siblings had their own struggles, which we won't get into here, but they weren't able to do that either. So it was like, yeah, okay, maybe next year. It never really materialized because the next year is when I was like, I'm bored. I am going to drive 2 hours to Northern Virginia and go to Immaculate Heart of Mary just because.
Now, just so the audience is aware, the Immaculate Heart of Mary Chapel is the SSPX chapel in Linden, Virginia that Linnae and I met at, and we hang out pretty often after church over some coffee.
And some ice cream.
And ice cream, of course. Of course. So, yes, you eventually drove down doing these 2-hour drives. How long have you been making that trip?
So, about 2 years now. So, like, at the time when I discovered that there was actually a society chapel nearby, that was 2022 is when I discovered it. So, I didn't get my driver's license until the next year. So, obviously I couldn't drive myself beforehand, and just because my dad was working in DC a lot, he didn't have the time to drive me up. So I was like, well, I'll wait till I get my license. And at that time, the society was back in the news because I think that was around the time that the Superior General was starting to have some more talks with Rome. So it was like in the news a lot. So it's like, what's all this talk about the society? It's like, what's wrong with them? Why is everyone so angry at them? It's like, what they did was great. I mean, obviously, everyone's mad because they disobeyed the Pope and consecrated bishops without papal mandate. But the Chinese bishops do that, and all he does is just, like, confirm them. So it's like, I saw the double standard. I was like, this is not right. Everyone says they're bad, but they don't know anything about the society. Let's check them out. I'm the kind of person, if you tell me something's bad, but you can't explain why, and you don't know anything about it, I'm going to ignore what you say and do it anyway.
Fantastic. Thank God for people like you.
And go and check it out. And
yeah.
That's what I did as soon as I was able to. I was like, why do people hate them so much? They're the most real people I've ever met. Like, the most real people and, like, the most real Catholics. Because the Novus Ordo, if you subscribe to the Novus Ordo, you have to be comfortable with a certain level of mediocrity. Otherwise, you would not be able to function in there. So they're good people at heart, but they're mediocre Catholics. Let's just be blunt. They're mediocre Catholics. They're great people at heart. I know lots of people who go to the Novus Ordo. They're great people. But there's a certain mediocrity. There's like a shallowness. Because if you're going to a shallow worship service, a shallow parish community, a shallow mass, you are going to be shallow.
It's well said, actually. I was getting dinner at Father Haynos, and I in conversation, I was at the Italian place in town, and I was like, yeah, you know what? The Novus Ordo Mass is sort of like the Diet Coke of the Mass.
Yes, right? Yes. Or light beer.
Yeah. Or beer without alcohol or something, right? And it was funny. So, like, we got up, I don't know, about like 20, 30 minutes later, and this couple that was sitting at the bar, they weren't even Catholic. And they're like, hey, we heard you mention something about the Diet Coke of the Mass.
Oh, you must have been talking loudly.
You know what? Like, I have a tendency, if I'm getting excited about something,
I know.
You know.
You'll echo through the restaurant.
You know me pretty well then. But yeah, they're like, so what do you mean about the Diet Coke of the Mass? And I was like, well, Father, you want to kind of explain this? And he's just like, oh gosh.
Yeah, I bet.
So no, but I actually broke it down like very kind of like basic level for about 30 seconds or so, and then like after I got like the basic version that I could deliver, Father explained it a little bit better and or much better in the short time that we had.
Yeah.
But yeah, just thinking about what you said, it's so true about the Novus Ordo, and it's just such a shallow mass.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to even call it a mass when the priests don't even take it seriously enough to treat the Eucharist
Yeah.
like Christ that it is.
Yeah,
right?
and when the focus is more on it being a meal as opposed to the sacrifice of the cross being renewed on earth. So like when you see that there's the shallowness in the Nosoto, and then like in the traditional circle and the other traditional groups, fraternity. I haven't really been around Institute of Christ the King, so I'll leave them out of the discussion, but I'm pretty sure it's the same because they're also a product of Vatican II. A product of Vatican II and a product of the hierarchy trying to solve the problem of the SSPX.
Sure.
But the fraternity circles I've been in, it's like they do the traditional things. They go to the traditional mass. They sometimes have confession, like in the Latin. A lot of the diocesan Latin masses, they don't do it. The priests don't do confession in Latin because either they don't know it or they're afraid that if they do it, they'll get in trouble. Because I've known some priests who have been reported to their bishops for
Unbelievable.
doing the traditional confession. So apparently,
how dare you do something more reverent of Christ?
Exactly.
What do you think this is, a church?
Yeah, so they've gotten in trouble for doing that. And so it's like there's...
What a clown show.
Yeah, seriously, a clown show. Sometimes literally in the Novus Ordo, but we're talking about...
Yeah.
So,
well, real quick, I want to bring this up because you mentioned that the SSPX had a lot of daggers pointing at it, a lot of arrows pointing at it, a lot of people like just upset with it, but not being able to explain why they were upset or justify it well. And I noticed this too, even from the outside. A friend of mine introduced me to this, the SSPX, but I also heard about Latin mass goers that were being spied on by the FBI. Right?
Yeah.
And just a couple years before that was when they were refusing to adhere to Rome's orders to, not give out the Eucharist.
Yeah.
Right? And so already those are two things that draw national attention, right? And it's like, to me, as an outsider, and I'm a sort of a non-denominational / Baptist Christian at the time. I wasn't really taking the faith too seriously, but I'm looking at it from an objective standpoint, and I'm like, wait, these guys are hardcore. This is cool. And when I actually took a look at the people at the church, like walking in and out, I was like, okay, these people look really like traditional. Like these look like the fruits of how you sustain a civil society, right? Big, huge families. They're all dressed well. They seem properly ordered, but yeah, it's interesting because I even said this to Father Carlisle when he was helping me with catechism. He's asking me how I kind of found the SSPX, and one of the things is like, it's just, I just felt like evil was sort of like showing me the way, in a weird way, like unintentional, I don't know, intentionally or unintentionally, but yeah, just by seeing where the conflict was directed towards, and it's like, so these guys must be doing something right.
Yeah. So, like in the, I'll call it the normal traditional world, they do everything. It's like they do the same things the society does. Well, for the most part, a lot of times, especially if it's diocesan Latin mass communities, they don't do a lot of the big ceremonies. Like they don't do the rogation days and the processions. It's like they just don't, either because the priests don't have time, because they're also doing like diocesan stuff, like or Novus Ordo type stuff, or they're afraid to in case they get in trouble. Because if they get in trouble, they can lose their pensions or be sent to some backwoods parish where they can't do any harm, or be suspended, placed in limbo.
Yeesh.
And have nothing to do, like some priests we know who just don't have anything to do there. They've been released from diocesan service, but not sent to another post, and they're just kind of in limbo with nothing to do. So I think some of that might play into why the normal traditionalists, there's an affectation. There's it's a facade almost, and they're great people, but when you're doing tradition just for the sake of doing tradition, just so you can check the box of being a traditional Catholic, it shows. Even if you're like a good, genuine Catholic, there's a certain facade there.
Sure.
And I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one that saw this or not, just because I think too much and see too much and analyze too much. But I was like, these people, they're great people. Most of my traditional friends, aside from here, are fraternity or like other traditional communities. They're great people, but it's fake almost. It's like it's hard to have like deep conversations with them on the faith because it's like they're just not interested in having like the deep conversations. Most of the conversations I have here, we might start off talking about light things, or we might just launch straight into the deep end of the pool.
Right.
Especially like with you or
Yeah.
some of the other people that I know really well here. We'll just jump straight into the deep end. Like that'll be the first words when we meet. It's like, hey, did you hear about whatever?
Yeah.
Because it's like you don't have to go through the niceties of, oh, how you doing? How's the weather? Did you see this? Did you see that? It's just
Yeah,
like,
screw the niceties.
yeah, it's just like straight into the deep end.
Love it.
So seeing that, and I was like, I wasn't able to like really find people that I could like click with. I've never like
Understandable.
had people I could click with like growing up or anything. I mean, like they're the kids in the community, and they're not Catholic, most likely, or they're not practicing Catholic, or they're Protestant and trying to convert you. It's like you can't. It's like you can't connect with them, and also like being an extreme introvert and not liking talking to people, and just like being like a different sort of person. I like never really got along with any of the other kids my age, like especially the girls. I would usually just go and hang out with the boys because boys tend to be like very real and like down to earth. They just want to go and like run around or build with Legos and do something practical.
And also, they tend to be more mission oriented.
Yeah, and they're also simple. Men are very simple creatures.
Yes, we are. We're very simple.
The girls, they wanted to talk about makeup or celebrities or just talk about boys they liked or whatever. It's like just like these surface level things, and I've never been one to like talk about that kind of stuff. So I was just kind of like, you girls are so boring. I'm gonna go play with the boys. And then the girls were kind of like, why is she over with the boys?
Yeah.
is she trying to get the boy I like? So, and then just like moving around a lot, we didn't have like time also to like build good friendships because we were moving around a lot. And there also like weren't a lot of kids, like in northeastern Pennsylvania, there are not a lot of kids because it's like a retirement area. It's
Sure.
a beautiful area, which is why it's a retirement area. So the kids that I did know up there, it was just kind of like, you guys are so boring. And then moving down here and getting to my local parish down south of here, more kids, but still just that difference. The surface level girls who just want to talk about things that I was totally not interested in. And then when I would try to talk about the things I am interested in, it was just like, they were just like, yeah, we don't get what you're talking about.
Wow.
And then I would like be talking with the boys.
Yeah, because
And-
it seemed like they weren't trying to understand what you're referring to or ask questions about it too much.
Well, yeah, and it's like they just tended to talk about things I was more interested in. Like they tended to talk about politics
Well, the
more.
men, yeah.
And like understand it more.
Mm-hmm.
And or I don't know, talk about guns
Yeah.
or even cars. It's like I'm not a huge car person, but I'll talk to you about different cars. Or,
Well, I think that also says a lot about, I think, your personality and whether you've reached this place through how you were raised or your own thought process or naturally, the personality of listening and wanting to understand more about someone's interests,
Yeah.
right? Because I know for me, it's really important, like pursuing a wife, whatnot. For me, it's really important that my potential wife really enjoys or at least is interested in understanding
Yes.
my interests, right? Particularly ones that I do for a living, right? Or things that help to inspire what fuels me for my
or even like the minor little quirks, like your obsession with video games.
Yeah, well, yeah. Who'd have thunk I was obsessed with video games? What makes you think that?
We've got this, we've got that, we've got the characters on the wall behind you.
You know what? I won't. I'm not going to get too deep into it. This is about you, but I do have to say that I look at a lot of games from the retro era, the RPG storytelling era, and that's what got me into filmmaking was playing these games that had, to me, better stories than what I was receiving in Hollywood. I also couldn't understand the subtext of most films in my single-digit years, so I don't know. It's just a more interactive process. The rush of a boss fight, and so I don't know. It's for me. It's more than just like a hobby, though it's definitely a hobby occasionally, right? It's really a source of artistic inspiration, and I know it's kind of weird and rare, but yeah, that's just how it is for me. But anyway, I'm just saying is that, from your standpoint, like I'd say like anyone who wants to be outside of themselves, and I've had to teach myself this, you've got to ask questions about that person or their interests. And I've found that sometimes if I'm like annoyed with someone, right, and I have to talk to them, or I want to be nicer to them, one technique I've found for that is I'll start asking that person, like, what's your biggest dream? What's like the craziest thing you've ever done? What's the most important thing to you? Things like that. And suddenly I'll go from being bored by this person just talking at me to like loving that person sincerely, because then I start to realize what's making them tick, like what's making them who they are. And suddenly like I'm just less annoyed by getting talked at because now I understand where it's coming from. But I actually think it's really cool that you have that ability to, and that desire to just sit down and just absorb, and even if you're not sure if you're interested in something, you want to learn about it. Right? And now let's go back to the SSPX, and it seems like there was a difference in the level of depth in the people at the SSPX. And certainly I'd imagine this is a lot of what brought you to, wanting to pursue your work as a nun in the future. So where did you apply, or how does that even work with the SSPX and becoming a nun? Like what path did you go down to pursue that?
So like when I came here, I was like, these are like the most real people that I've met. Most of the people here is like, even if they're not like super interested in what I am and like the unique things I'm interested in, especially like unique for a woman, because it's not feminine to be interested in guns. I don't know why, but it's just typically not. Or to like want to talk about like real things.
Sure.
It's probably like a different in brain processing.
Yeah.
But I was like, most of the people, even if they're not like really interested in what I'm talking about, they will talk to me about it, and they will like try to find out like why I'm interested in it. And especially like meeting you and the couple other people that we hang around with, is like all of us are kind of like a little bit quirky, so I think that helped us click a lot. But
we're all broken a little.
Something in the mechanics got messed up. But it's like that depth, I was like, I think this is like where the real Catholics are. Maybe that's why everyone hates them. Even like the normal tradition is like, oh, they're bad, they're schismatic, they're stuck up. It's like, I have not met a single stuck up person within the society. Now, obviously, I haven't been around the entirety of the society. No one has. But I haven't come across a single stuck up one. I've come across quite a few stuck up people in the normal traditionalist spheres.
The Boomer Ordo traditionalist space. I have to mention this because I came out the SSPX from the outside completely. So I was catechized in the SSPX versus the Boomer Ordo. And I had every reason to provoke stuck-upness in other people for being so ignorant, right? And I received anything but. I mean, I received a ton of charity from people. I never got, like, people eye-rolling or anything. So that is certainly true in my experience as well.
Yeah, that's probably a product of... like the character of the order. And as I said before, it's like the parishes reflect the priests, and the priests of the society are like the most real men I've met ever.
Amen to that.
And it's like they're like real men. They're also priests, obviously, and you can see that, but you can also see like they're real. There's substance
Yep.
to them. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. It's like I can go up and I can talk to Father about something spiritual or about the fact that this law was just passed about whatever. And he will talk to me about spirituality. He will talk to me about politics or whatever I want. And he will actually be genuinely interested in what I'm saying.
Yep.
You can tell if someone's like not really interested in what you're talking about.
Right.
Especially if you're an introvert and you observe people for a living.
Well, and they
pretty
start
much.
having overly simplified responses to stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've also observed this about our priests and even the seminarians to a large degree, right? And I'll tell people, man, these are like some of the most normal men to talk to.
Yeah.
They're great listeners. They're pleasant to deal with. There's no excuse the term, like dick waving, like there's no like kind of pride-induced verbiage, I guess you could say would be a better way to put it. But it's just normal, fun, deep conversation. Right?
Or maybe like just like boredom. I think in the normal traditional world, I think a lot of the men are like bored for some reason. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if that's a product of like the whole Vatican II influence or not, but they're like bored. And obviously I don't know like what the seminary like formation is like at the fraternities seminary. I don't know like the ins and outs of the day lives. I don't know about how many like the level of sports they play or like physical activity. But I do know that the society, they're very physical men there. They play a lot of sports. They also do a lot of like hard work. Like the seminarians built the seminary.
Yeah.
And that's like that's part of the spirit of the society. It's like doing real things, like manual labor. And I think men, especially who do manual labor, they end up being very real people. Because you get to wrestle with reality, like, oh, this brick is not fitting here, or why is this stump not splitting, or why can't I stack this cord of wood correctly, why does it keep falling down? It's like they get to wrestle with the physical world, and that helps them learn how to wrestle with the spiritual world, and they end up just being really solid, normal people. I mean, it's like with the seminarians, obviously, it's like sometimes there's still that schoolboy shyness, especially like when they're talking to young women.
Yeah, I can imagine, yeah.
And I'm sure, and that's that shyness and awkwardness, but they're still like the most real young men I've ever talked to. It's like they're a delight to talk to, and they'll talk to you about, obviously, anything you want to talk about.
Yeah.
They're very well-rounded, and they know how to pull the spiritual realm into the physical without being fake about it.
And I imagine for someone like yourself who seems to be very mission-oriented, it was sort of relatable to talk to them.
Yeah, it was relatable. It was like they're the most relatable people I've been able to talk to. Like the priests, the seminarians, the sisters, they're just really, really relatable. It's like you come into this big family where it's like it's almost like you know everybody without knowing them. But it's like you can easily figure out what makes the different members tick.
Yeah.
And it's been so refreshing to come here from the normal traditionalists where it's like you try to talk to someone your own age and they just don't understand what you're talking about, or they just don't care.
I would say they don't care more so because I'll be honest, like I am very slow at learning all of the words and the verbiage of the church. I'm still trying to figure a ton of it out, and I'm always like confusing the C words, right? But I was venting to you about that on the way here. But but there's a difference between someone who just doesn't understand a lot of these things, but is willing to learn and can still get deep on just with like deep diving into certain subjects or things, and people that are just unwilling to go there just because they're just not interested, right?
Yeah, that and that's I think that's like a product of like the society spirit. Like the Archbishop's motto is Creditimus Caritati. We have believed in love or believed in charity, and charity is not just like love. It's like giving of self for the others. Like there's no selfishness in charity. Love has selfishness in it, and that's like the spirit of the society. And like the normal traditionalists, they're great people, but there's not that spirit of charity, of like charity for souls, like being mission oriented towards bringing souls to God and bring, as I said before, bring the kingdom into souls.
Right.
And so it's like they're real here. It's like, I think I found where I finally fit in the world.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, let's check out the Society Sisters and see if it's comparable.
How was that experience?
It was the best week I've ever had in my life. It was absolutely fantastic. It's like I was expecting to be kind of like, like kind of shy and reserved because that's just how I am. But it's like we all clicked right away. It was like coming home. I was like, I actually finally like feel at home.
That's so cool.
And it's like we just hit it off right away, and they're very unique. They're very unique young women. A lot of the sisters there were when I was there. They were from Australia, so a lot of them are from Australia. And Australians are some of the funniest people on the planet.
Yeah, they are. They're like
some of the funniest and spunkiest people on the planet. But they can switch back and forth to being like hilarious and spunky to being like dead serious about a topic. And so it's like, because that's my personality too. I was like, oh my gosh, I actually fit in here. And just like knowing like what the mission of the society is and the mission of the Society Sisters and like that mission orientation while being semi-contemplative, semi-active. I was like, I think this is actually going to work. I don't feel bored here. You can't feel bored around the Society Sisters. I don't feel bored here. I wouldn't get depressed trying to stay here. It works.
It just clicked.
And also like their purpose of existence being to spread the love of God for souls, to teach children the catechism, to like provide for the vestments of the priest. I like that too because it's like I'm a seamstress and I'm an artist, and making vestments for the service of the altar is like the perfect combination of artistry and like sewing, because you're sewing the vestments but you're also making them a work of art. So that's like the perfect place to do, even more so than like doing religious painting, for instance. Making vestments, you're painting with thread.
Yeah, you're actually making what they wear.
Yeah,
right?
and also it's like it's also like it's such a deep honor to be able to do that too, to see something you worked so hard on actually being used in the service of God. It's like, how could it be that I would be allowed to do this? It's like I'm not worthy to make this and have it be used in the service of the altar, but I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
And so
it's like, I'm not worthy for this to be so fun and enjoyable.
Exactly. And so it was like, I think this could work. And also just like being like wanting to like give God the gift of my gratitude. And it's like, what better way to say thank you to God than to dedicate your life to a service? Like, like if you think about like the old times of fealty and feudalism, it's like, wow, the Lord of this land has done such great things for my family. I'm going to dedicate myself to his service for the rest of my life. So it's like that,
It's like the least you can do.
Yeah, it's like the least, literally, it's like the least I can do. It's like, how could I not say yes? So, and they also like, they do teaching and they do the vestments, and they're also like missionaries. And like it's like the best of both worlds.
Sounds like the perfect mix for you.
Exactly. You get to be a missionary, and you also get to serve the priests. You get to make the vestments. You get to harass them and spoil them and and make their meals, and also pray for them and sacrifice for them because they need that support too. And you also like get to teach people how to live an authentic Catholic life. and you have a certain broadness in your influence because you're not tied down by a family. And I was like, I think this is where I'm going to go. And so I was like, I came back from my visit, and since then I've just been like going through the process of, obviously coming here and like studying the faith deeper, just because that's just what I do. Talking with the novice mistress, talking with the priests here. So this fall I'm planning on teaching for about a year in St. Mary's, Kansas, because it was recommended to me by the novice mistress that, hey, get some experience teaching just so that you get more into what we know. Like, you get to more know, like, what we do and how we do it. And I was like, okay, cool, why not?
When do you start that?
So I'm still in the application process, but school starts in August, I'm guessing. I don't know when school starts out in Kansas.
Yeah.
So all you Kansans out there, you know what I'm talking about. So, like, whenever school starts, I'm guessing, like, end of August.
And watch out, guys. Linnae is coming to St. Mary's, Kansas. So St. Mary's, Kansas will never be the same.
Yeah. So planning on doing that, and then hopefully, God willing, next year to go to Browville for pre-postulancy or whatever they want me to do next fall.
So
fall 27.
Explain just for people that are more ignorant like myself, the process of becoming a nun after you've discerned and you've gone and they said, hey, this is probably a pretty good fit. What is the process from this point to actually becoming a nun, and how long is it?
So, like, from like the time you decide.
Gotta come up to the mic, girl.
Sorry.
We're not gonna be able to hear you very well.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So the total process from like you beginning to, like, you deciding you're going to do this to final profession, that obviously depends on like when you go in. So it's like you'll enter, and usually you go through pre-postulancy, and I think that's 6 months for the Society Sisters. I hope I'm not going to get anything wrong, because I don't want to get anything wrong by the sisters, but I think it's like 6 months.
Sure.
And then postulancy is the next step. That's a year, if I am not mistaken. And then after that is you officially become a novice. So you get your new name, and you receive the habit and the white veil. So the novitiate is 2 years, and then you make your first profession of vows, and you receive the black veil. Final profession of vows, I don't remember how long it is. I think it's 5 years after.
Yeah, that lines up from things I've heard.
Yes, so I think it's like 5 or 6 years. Obviously, I'm sure it depends on the person.
Sure.
But you do your first vows, and then there's a temporary, and you're renewing those every year. And then after, I think, like 5 or 6 years, somewhere in the ballpark of 5 or 6 years, is you make your final vows. And that's when you're like officially a fully graduated sister, but you're a sister when you take the white veil, because that's when you receive your new name.
See, it makes me respect the sisterhood so much when I hear about. I mean, certainly it's become a little bit more of a meme, just how joyous, or how much they express their joy, right? Mm-hmm. But hearing your mindset of how mission oriented you are and how much that is compatible with the sisterhood. Mm-hmm. Is such a cool thing, and it makes me just look at it and be like, yeah, I'm glad you guys are like in the trenches, covering, like watching our children, like keeping an eye on them, making
dragging graces by force down from heaven.
Right, y'all are hardcore ladies, right? You guys are super hardcore, and you have a little bit more focus on that, and to do that with not having families, you know. So a bunch of people from the Boomer Ordo are saying, watch out, SSPXers, you guys are going to lose a bunch of laymen once you're consecrating bishops. Like, once that happens, like, you're going to have a whole bunch of them are going to run away. What's your response to that?
Well, it's like, what would you have us do? if it happens, it happens. I mean, we could not do it, or we could do it. Either way, something's going to happen. People are going to leave either way. That's what happens in war. People die either way, whether you fight or not. Better die fighting than die not fighting. And I don't think the society is going to lose as much as they're saying.
Yeah, because I imagine those people would be gone already, right?
Yes. I mean, especially as the consecrations are getting closer and, like, all the stuff is coming out about what the Vatican's saying and Don Pagliarani's responses and now his lovely profession of faith.
Yep.
It's like, obviously, probably there's some people who are holding back leaving, thinking, well, maybe he'll change his mind. Maybe he'll put it off. And that's like, well, okay, you can think that, but he's not going to. So there will be people who leave after the consecrations. People have left already. And it's still only May. I think more people, comparatively speaking, I think more people are going to come to the society than are leaving. Because they're going to see, like, conviction and, like, a willingness to pick the hill you're going to die on and die fighting. And mankind wants that. We haven't seen a lot of that in recent decades. We've seen it used for causes that are not really worth fighting for.
Sure.
So when they see that there's a group of people that actually believes in what they're fighting for and also see that what they're fighting for is producing great fruit, they're going to be like, hey, I think I should go there. So to all the people who are like, oh, you're going to lose a ton of people, why are you doing this? You should just stop. It's like, no, I don't think so. If we do lose a lot of people, so be it. We know what we need to do, and when people see the light shined in the darkness, they're going to gravitate towards the light if they're people of goodwill. If they're not people of goodwill, then they need to listen to God's grace and become people of goodwill. And it's like, someone has to do something.
That's right.
We can't just let this continue. It's only going to get worse. They're the people who are like, oh, well, we just need to wait for better bishops or a better pope. It's like, what are you doing about it? Are you raising your families better? Are you raising your families in the authentic traditional Catholic faith? Or are you raising them on cereal, Diet Coke? And you can't have good bishops unless you have good priests. And you can't have good priests if you don't have good seminaries.
That's a good point.
And you can't have a good pope unless you have good seminaries. Therefore, you need good priests to be consecrated good bishops so these good seminaries can continue. It's a circle.
Yeah.
One thing flows into the other and vice versa.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So what will happen will happen. But I think the outcome of it will be way better than people expect.
And it's funny because as you're explaining this and saying, we're not, so be it if some people leave because we're doing the right thing, the thing that has to be done. It makes me think, well, what's the opposite? The opposite is the Boomer Ordo. Exactly. What they did, where they rolled in the guitar, right, and started singing some. My father told me about the change in the church because he was, both of my parents were baptized and went through confirmation, all that when they're in their youth, and my father was even catechized by nuns, which I didn't realize until recently, but. He was explaining to me how, they brought the guitars in after the Boomer Ordo effects came in, the Vatican II effects, and they were singing like, eat my body, drink my blood. Yeah.
You're bringing back bad memories.
Well, it's just so so cringe that it's hysterical. It's horrible the effect that it's having, but it's still funny.
Yeah, is.
It's hilarious, but. Yeah, getting to more of the this future potential schism.
Schism from what?
Yeah, exactly. Are you afraid of being excommunicated?
No, because they actually can't excommunicate the lady, according to canon law, if I'm not mistaken. But it's like you can't like blanket excommunicate the lady for something they had absolutely and totally no connection to. Now, it's just like abortion is technically an excommunicable sin, but that's something that is done personally. You can't excommunicate someone for something they didn't do. You can't excommunicate the grandmother of someone who has an abortion just because it was her granddaughter who had an abortion or her grandson who did the abortion. You can't, because she has no culpability for that. So,
Yeah.
afraid of schism, no. And even if they could excommunicate us, even if we would be in schism, it's like, schism from what? What are we separating ourselves from? Now, obviously, we're not setting up a parallel hierarchy. That would be schism. The society is still faithful to Rome. They're faithful to the office of the papacy. They don't deny his authority. It's just that schism from the boomer order, schism from a shallow mass, schism from just a way of living that is mediocre. Yeah, I'll take that. Thanks. Great job. You did me the best favor of my life. I want to be excommunicated from that, because mediocrity doesn't lead to heaven.
Damn right.
It leads to, mediocrity is like lukewarmness, and in the apocalypse, Jesus says, I will spew you out of my mouth if you are lukewarm. You need to be hot or cold. I'd rather be on the hot side, because cold actually means hell, but I'm not going to be mediocre.
The fascinating thing about that is, I think years ago, when there was less arrows being pointed at us from more malicious forms of evil or actions of evil lately, I think it was a little harder to understand the full depth of what Christ was saying.
Yes.
Right? But now, with more of the daggers coming out, with evil getting more and more desperate lately, it starts to make sense, like, oh, that's what you mean by lukewarm. Like, not doing anything when these guys are going crazy on us.
Well, yeah, and also I think it's like, it's a lot easier to see that now, like, the essence of the society is, it's like, it's real, it's valuable, it was like the right thing. Obviously we can't stand in judgment on different people, but it's like the fruit of this has been so good, and now we can see just how evil what has happened in the church is becoming. We're seeing the whole rainbow alphabet soup stuff, and bishops and priests participating in blessings and masses relating to that whole rainbow alphabet soup fakeness and gayness, literally.
Fake and gay.
You have bishops who are literally participating in the consecrations of Anglican bishops, which is an act of schism on the part of those bishops. They have technically excommunicated themselves by that, taking part in those ceremonies, because if you're a Catholic bishop, you cannot consecrate Anglican bishops. You just can't. That is schism. That is heresy. You are excommunicated. Nothing's going to be done to them, though, because the system is such that in order to like, even like having relatively easy life or advance in the church, you have to be either downright evil or just lukewarm and go along with it. You can't be a firebrand standing up for the truth and expect to be made bishop or to be put in charge of a large parish. You cannot expect that, and you cannot expect for your bishop to give you an easy time. If you're a priest and you're a firebrand, you're going to have a very hard time. You will not be assigned a large parish. You will not make bishop. You will never be cardinal. Not that necessarily not that the priest should desire to be bishop or cardinal, because if you want it, that means you shouldn't have it. But you will not advance. You will be a third-class citizen in the hierarchy of the church if you are a firebrand and you are a priest, because the system is such that to be first-class citizen, to have that first-class cabin pass, you have to be fake, lukewarm, downright evil, and like just not either comply with what they're doing or like wholeheartedly take part in it because it's just gotten so evil. And so seeing how evil that is and how the system is just like so set in its ways and just so rigid and so cruel, it's much easier to see that there's something up with the society being here. There's something up with these crazy radical Catholics who have large families and who are real people and talk about real things. And just it's very visible now that the church has gone off the deep end with making venerable pedophile bishops.
Yeah.
While not making venerable or blessed priests and bishops and other people who were actually good Catholics.
Not to mention the Vatican's efforts to promote mass migration by victimizing illegals constantly, right? And they're always talking about these poor illegals, and the United States and the Trump administration needs to stop mistreating these migrants, but they never talk about the people killed, people murdered, beaten to death, really, by a lot of these illegals. The drunk driving illegals, you're talking 4,000 or 5,000 a year die from drunk driving illegals. Try talking to.
Frightening.
Yeah, it's insane. And I mean, try talking to the families. I mean, I working at Breitbart, I interviewed a family who had lost their child. I think it was a son. From a drunk driving illegal, but I met them only 2.5 weeks after it happened because they heard about a rally to shake members of Congress, shake reality into them and go into their offices and call them out, and they're like, well, I feel like we got to do this, right? And let me tell you something, man. Talking to these people who lost the life of their son and they had no business losing their son over someone that had no business being in this country, and the Pope ignores people like that. And the reason why, from my point of view, is it looks like the Pope wants to facilitate the destruction of Western civilization, and everything I see lines up with that pattern, right? They're promoting climate change, globalist climate change BS by blessing a piece of ice, right? Just total cringe. He's promoting mass migration. He is very tactically opposing Trump on Iran. And I'm not going to say that all for or against the war or whatever. I'm just going to point out that I believe that the Pope's move and attack on Trump was extremely tactical and timed at a time when Trump's approval was perceivably at a low point. And he didn't just go on the attack on him on Iran war. His cronies at the Vatican also went after him on migration and kept spamming him on that.
Yeah.
Right? So why is the Vatican getting into mass migration in your view?
I think partly what you said, the destruction of Western civilization, because globalism is presented. It's whether the Pope realizes it's about the destruction of Western civilization or not is debatable. Obviously, I don't know him, so I'm not going to say that he knows that that's what it is. But globalization is presented today as the way forward. It's the way to world peace is globalization, and obviously everybody wants peace. Never mind the fact that true peace comes through the true religion.
Right.
But they want world peace. So I think it's partly that. But also you have to look at the whole bringing in the new world order concept, the Freemasons and their whole process of basically turning the world into a whole giant satanic religion. If you're looking at from that perspective too, I mean, the Freemasons actually do want to destroy Western civilization because Western civilization is Christendom. So they want to destroy Christendom, basically. And one of the ways they do that is tapping into evil forces. One of the easiest ways and best ways throughout history to tap into evil forces is sacrifice to the evil forces. So in addition to bringing in the mass migration into different Christian loose term Christian nations, in addition to that bringing crime and, just general chaos, it brings chaos. And in chaos, people fall through the cracks. And it's like mass migration, it equals crime, chaos, and trafficking. Human trafficking equals sacrifice.
And it dilutes the culture of Western civilization,
Exactly.
which is Christianity, which is Catholicism.
Exactly, but it's like the power that they want to try to tap into, they have to sacrifice people for that. And in order to sacrifice people, there's no better way to get the sufficient numbers than creating a lot of chaos, and also like creating sympathy for these people. It's like, oh, we need to welcome them in. So it's like down on our southern border, there would be mothers who'd be like leaving their little kids just over the border with a note saying, please take care of my child, here's my phone number. It's like those poor mothers are never going to see their children again, ever. They are going to disappear, and we can only imagine where they're going to end up. They're going to end up abused. They may end up dead, but the power these evil people need, like the Freemasons need, it has to come from human sacrifice, and human sacrifice of the innocent, of children. So when mass migration starts picking up, you also see an uptick in child trafficking and kids just disappearing. I don't remember how many hundred thousands of illegal immigrant children have disappeared since this whole thing started. They've just disappeared. They are gone.
Yeah.
And they will never be found again. They will be abused in the worst ways conceivable, and they will eventually be killed, so that these evil people can attempt to harness the power of the evil realm and bring about the New World Order.
And it's funny, you look at what the Novus Ordo is, and what does it mean?
New Order.
New Order, huh? They used to think that was a cool thing to say back in the day. Now it's cringe, and I would not be surprised if they changed the name of it retroactively.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like if you're talking about the Novus Ordo and like the different Catholic charities. Catholic charities has actually been found to be taking part in child trafficking, which is a horrifying thought, because it's supposed to be the Catholic Church, which is supposed to be helping and protecting the innocent and the vulnerable, but instead they're betraying these innocent people into the hands of people who are going to do horrible things to them and either eventually kill them or keep them alive so they can prolong their suffering, because the power that they're able to get from the demons comes from these people suffering.
And that is when you mentioned sacrifice and how evil needs to sacrifice to pursue its goals. And that is just such a fascinating parallel situation, right? Yeah. How sacrifice is necessary for the greatest good to be done for us Catholics, and sacrifice is what's necessary for the greatest evil to be done. Yeah. Right? I don't think I've ever really put two and two together like that. Yeah,
it's like the two sides, the two opposites, black and white, yin and yang, whatever you want to call it.
But sacrifice seems to be the ultimate weapon, strangely.
Yes. And so it's like when you think about like how deep is the church? Like the church, and I mean that term relatively loosely. Like how deep is the church involved in human trafficking? It's frightening to think about. Especially if you think about bishops who are pedophiles, cardinals who are pedophiles, priests who are pedophiles. How deep are they into child trafficking? It's frightening to think about. I would argue, obviously I have no hard proof, and I will probably never have hard proof. I would argue that most of the hierarchy, on some level, except maybe the ones who very obviously not into that, maybe Bishop Strickland and Bishop Schneider, and the ones who very obviously tending more towards tradition and against these things. Aside from that, I would argue most are on some level tied up in this, whether they're actually doing it themselves. And I know it's everyone knows there sexual orgies that take place on Vatican property, church property, with priests, cardinals, bishops, what have you. Everyone knows that.
And it's been going on for a long time.
It has. It's been going on for decades. And I would argue that most are involved in it. we'll probably never know just how deep the rot goes, even if it's just that one priest who's just a little bit creepy towards kids or towards young women or towards young men or whatever,
Right.
or the ones who are actually who are actually abusing people, or the ones who are covering up the facts that so and so, father so and so, or bishop so and so is this kind of person, or the ones who are actually facilitating the movement of victims from one place to another.
Well, it's scary to imagine, right? Because you could even have less than 1% of them directly involved in this horrible sexual behavior, but then you have a much larger percentage of them covering up or looking the other way because they don't want to lose their positions, and maybe they're justifying it. Well, we got to get people to heaven, so I don't want to. I don't want to call this out, but we have seen people in the past. Was it Vigano? Wasn't he one of the ones that called out this sort of thing?
Yeah, we've got Archbishop Vigano. He called stuff out, and he was kicked out of his apartments in Rome. He was excommunicated. He's been pushed to the curb. He's just been kicked out. Or Bishop Strickland. It's like, if you think about Bishop Strickland and the whole conference of Catholic bishops in the U.S., and they had their meeting, and he stood up and was like, hey, we need to talk about, I think it was McCarrick that he wanted to talk about. We need to address this issue. He was ignored. And then he was kicked out of his diocese. No one, none of the other however many hundred bishops in the United States took his side, stood up for him, or was even like, hey, why are we doing this? Let's have due process. Nobody. Now, either they're complicit or they're scared. And if you're scared and you do nothing, you are complicit. So it's just frightening to think about, the level of rot in the Catholic hierarchy that makes it that a bishop stands up and says, hey, there's this giant evil elephant in the room that we need to address because there are all these people that have been hurt by this, and it's jeopardizing souls, and it's just plain evil. And he's shut down, kicked out of his diocese, left hanging, no funds. It's like when a bishop is kicked out of his diocese like that, he's completely cut off. So if he's going to survive, even on a basic material level, he has to have friends who are going to help him, because either he has to have friends who are going to help him, or he'll just have to basically hang up his collar and get a job in order to on the most basic level. So if that happens and there's not a single bishop in that conference that stands up for that one, that's terrifying. And you think about, these are the bishops who are approving what our priests are learning in seminaries. These are the ones who are ordaining priests. And what's going on? And if these priests stand up, what's going to happen to them? It's way worse for a priest than for a bishop. Because obviously if you're a bishop, you've got more publicity, and they don't want to do too much to you. But if you're a priest, they can do whatever they want, and no one will know, and no one will care, except the people right around you. And even they may not care.
All it takes is for good men to do nothing.
Exactly. And it's we know a priest who's just been booted from his parish.
Yeah.
And what's he going to do? We have no idea. He's got family still, so that's obviously a support that he has, but he has no mission, no purpose in existing, no purpose for his priesthood anymore. All because he speaks the truth. That's all he does. He just simply speaks the truth. He does what he was ordained to do. And they're like, yeah, no, you're hindering our plans. Out. So, hopefully he's able to find a really good situation. Maybe he'll come over to the society. That'd be great. He'd be a good asset to them, I think. But, obviously, God will lead him in the way that he's supposed to go. But, yeah, it's getting pretty evil out there.
Yeah, well, thank God for people like yourself that have the fire necessary to take it on, and I'm excited to see what God's got in store for you and what you're going to be doing down the road. I'm really excited to see it, sincerely, and thank you for coming on here and giving me such an enlightening conversation. I've learned a lot by hearing you out, and
This was great. I really enjoyed it.
yeah, so thanks for coming on. Linnae Nickels, everyone. Linnae Nickels. Yeah, I don't do. Are you even on social media?
No.
So sorry, guys, you can't contact her.
You can't contact me. You can't follow me on Facebook. You can't like me on Twitter. You can't see my Instagram posts, and you can't direct message me because I just don't exist online. So.
And she don't care.
And I don't care either. It's like, I wouldn't want you to contact me. I probably wouldn't answer because I'm just not into social media.
I mean, okay, but what if there's someone watching and they want to, like, send some money to the SSPX, or they want to help you in some way?
If you want to donate to the SSPX, you can go to the SSPX's official website, and you can figure out how to find that. You guys are smart out there. You can figure out how to find their website, and you can donate to, like, whatever section you want. Like, within their website, you can go to their different websites, like seminary websites or whatever. As for me personally, and contacting me personally, it's a question of if I want to be contacted personally.
I don't think she wants to.
That's a fantastic question. No, I think I won't be contacted personally.
Yeah.
I would rather anybody who's, like, interested, like, who likes this story or whatever, I would rather them check out the society for yourself. It's like, if you're not going to Society Parish already and you're kind of hesitant about it and you've heard bad things about the society, I would say just go and check it out for yourself. Obviously, I doubt everybody in the society is absolutely perfect. You will find snobs everywhere. But I would say check them out. And
it's a very, very small snob ratio,
Yeah.
if they even exist.
yeah, and
right?
I would say it's like, I don't think you will regret checking out the society. Just like, even just checking it out. And if they don't fit with you, fine. I really doubt you will find anything, like, to push you away from them. I think if you're sincerely seeking, like, an authentic Catholic life, I think I can safely say the only place you will find that will be the society. And that's not saying, obviously, that they're the only Catholic church, like, they're the true church. It's just, they're where the authentic Catholics are. That's just the way it is. So I would rather you check out the society yourself, donate to the society, donate to their seminaries, pray for their seminarians and their priests, because they've got, the priests especially as the consecrations come up and whoever's chosen, they're going to have a really heavy burden, because the war has officially restarted with the consecration. So it's going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of attacks, just like in the physical realm and in the spiritual realm. So pray for them, pray for the sisters, and seek the truth. Don't be shallow. Don't be mediocre. Don't drink Diet Coke. Drink the real deal. It's like, go deep. And if you are struggling to, like, go deep in things in the Catholic faith, just go deep into the Bible. Just take your Bible, crack it open. Because I know there's the things, but, like, Catholics tend not to read the Bible a lot. So crack open that Bible and just read it. Don't try to, like, intellectualize about it. Just read it. Read it from cover to cover, if you can. Just a little bit every day, and go deep into that. And as you go deep into Scripture, it will help you to understand how to go deep into the faith. And if you go deep into the faith, you will start seeking other people who go deep into the faith. And I think I can truly say you only find those people in the society because they've managed somehow to hold on to, like, the essence, like the kernel of truth.
Or that, or they just, those people have not found the society yet. And I think there's a ton of those people out there.
There are. They just haven't found it. Or it's like, and there are also those people who've, like, heard bad things about them. But yeah, those who haven't found it, it's like, you guys need to find it.
That's right.
Those of us who, like, know the society, I think we need to really pray that more people find the society, because if we get more people, we'll get great Catholic families, and from great Catholic families come great Catholic priests and great Catholic bishops
and great Catholic babies.
Exactly. And eventually a great Catholic Pope.
That's right. Linnae Nickels, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Matt. This was fun.